Cape, and back to our top story where 6 women were shot and killed in Philippi East on the Cape Flats. We're joined now by Mariska Botha, who's our reporter there, to tell us a little bit more about the story. Mariska, thanks very much for joining us. It's a horrific story, just reading it. Tell us what we know, and has anything developed since?
Yes, good afternoon to you. I must first apologize. We were setting up to do a live video crossing with you, but the weather is just so bad that our equipment is not working. But we are with you on the phone right now. You are absolutely right. It's absolutely horrific. We arrived on the scene about an hour and a half ago, and we learned from the people that stay there that 2 women were shot in a shack closest to the road, and right behind them is another structure, a concrete structure, where 4 women were killed. We understand that at around 5 to 11 last night, armed gunmen entered the 2 buildings and just opened fire on these women. Now, they were young people. They were aged between 18 and 26 years of age, and for no apparent reason. At this point in time, we simply don't know what the motive is. We happened to speak to one of the parents of one of the youngest victims, who was 18 years old, and he was so distraught he couldn't really give us any information other than he's so shocked and he doesn't know what to do anymore about the crime in the area of Philippi East. It's another bloody weekend on the Cape Flats, because a few kilometers from here in Hanover Park, 2 more people were shot last night. So that brings the tally of what we know to 8 people in 12 hours shot and killed on the Cape Flats.
And again, nobody can point to any reason. 6 women in one house at one time. Why were they together? Was this a party? Were they just together? Do we know any reason? Because it might point to why the gunman chose that residence.
Yeah. Well, unfortunately, at this stage, we don't know that it was a party as such, but we understand from the father that we spoke to that it was a group of friends. So it might have been a sleepover, it might have been a visit. We're unclear at this stage exactly what it was, but they were peaceful, they were at home, they were in their beds. We saw a horrific little scene now where somebody was cleaning out the one shack, and she brought out 2 pillows, and they were absolutely soaked in blood. So it was a very violent attack, very extremely violent, on people that were unarmed, and they were at home last night in this cold and inclement weather, and people opened fire on them, and now we have 6 young women that are dead. And the tally in the Western Cape on the Cape Flats just keeps on rising every week with these kinds of incidents.
The neighbours, apart from being horrified, must be petrified at this stage, because without a motive, it could be random, and that puts them in a greater danger and fear.
You are absolutely right. People were very, very wary to speak to us, very cautious to agree to speak to us on camera. You can understand that. First of all, they're in shock. And second of all, they tell us that they are scared. They say they don't know where these people came from that committed this horrific crime, and they don't know what the reason is. So definitely people are fearful. And they tell us that incidents like this happen quite often, but many go unreported. Now, whether that is true or not, I simply cannot say. But I do know that the residents of Philippi East certainly watch their backs when they're moving through the streets. And after an incident like this, you are most definitely right that people will be very, very scared.
What have the police been able to share with the media and the public?
Well, at this point, they're not saying much. We know that the forensic teams worked throughout the night and, again, returned to the scene early this morning. When we arrived, there were no bodies and there was no police tape, so that indicates to us that the forensic team has concluded its work. And the only thing they're telling us right now is that the motive for the murder is unknown and the circumstances are being investigated. And also then confirming that it's 6 women and they aged between the ages of 18 and 26. Just on another note, the father that we spoke to of the 18-year-old told us in 2015 his other daughter was also shot and killed in Philippi East. So for him, this is absolutely devastating. He could barely speak to us. He started to talk to us when he spoke in English. He gave us a closer interview, and shortly after in English, he just broke down. And You can only imagine what a parent must go through coming to a scene and finding this.
So what do we know about Philippi East? Is this an area where we're seeing an escalation of this kind of violence over a period of time? Is this gang-related even?
It's very difficult to say whether it is gang-related, but what we do know for sure, the Cape Flats is riddled by gang violence. Philippi East is the neighbor of Nyanga, and of course you know that Nyanga is right at the top of the list of police statistics in terms of murder and violent crime. So they're neighbors, the two townships. And it is just as dangerous in Philippi East. We couldn't find directions, or we couldn't find the position of the home. And we went to the police station to ask for directions, and they were flabbergasted that we were going there alone, saying that it is a very dangerous area. So you can only imagine, if police tells you it's dangerous, then it must be. Violent crimes, yes, they happen on a regular basis. It's a year or so ago where 8 people were gunned down. Not too far from here, I think it was about 5 kilometers from here, where 8 people were gunned down, also in the span of 12 hours. So Philippi East is definitely also one of those very, very dangerous areas where one wouldn't want to be outside at night. But now, seemingly, if people can just storm into homes and kill, there's something very wrong here. And that's, of course, what the local councillor, the ward councillor that we spoke to, also told us, that something is very wrong if this is the case. People can just storm into homes and kill people at random.
All right, Mariska, we're going to have to leave it there. Thanks very much indeed. That's Mariska Botha, our reporter there on the scene. And yeah, horrific story last night. 6 women were shot and killed in Philippi East. And the motive for this killing is not known as yet. And we're just learning from Mariska there that one of the parents of one of the deceased lost another daughter in a shooting as well in 2015. So a very dangerous part of the Western Cape, Cape Town, and people there at the moment in fear of what's unfolding in their suburb.